Warning, this podcast contains explicit sexual language and should only be listened to at work if you're looking for an excuse to connect with your HR representative. Additionally, all mentions of the word women include cis and trans women. For my friends who are genderqueer, gender fluid, figuring it out, anything in between, and feel like this conversation is also important for you, you are welcome here.
Will you open up with me? These pages, they can feed your innermost desires. Do you feel inspired? Are you getting what you need? Are you coming curiously? A secret safe with me. And here you can simply be yourself. Sweet romance. Come on in, come on in, come on.
Hi, y'all. This is Jace, she, they, and you found Jace Reads Romance, a community dedicated to empowering women about sex and sexuality through the reading of romance novels. I brought another friend today.
Hello.
I love these interviews. This human and I are platonically in love, slightly obsessed. I'm not allowed near them because then I get sucked into a time bubble and suddenly hours have gone by. I literally went into the place where I know them from, which you're going to hear about in a second, and it was jokingly said, "Oh, I'll see you in 45 minutes" to the person I was with. And then I got a text. I didn't literally mean 45 minutes. That was a joke. I didn't expect it to be literal. So would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, thank you. My name is Addy. I use they, she pronouns, and I am an avid romance reader. Woot woot.
Yeah. But more importantly, how do I know you?
Yeah, so I actually work at a bookstore, an independent bookstore here, and I met Jace because you came in and put in a bunch of pre-orders and ordered a bunch of romance books, and I said, "Hi, new friend. How are you? I also read romance and am the only one here to do so."
So whenever Steffi and I joke about, yes, I've pre-ordered that, it's through Addy.
Oh, it's all through me. We are pre-ordered for you through August.
Yes, that's true. I'm fine with that. I love it. Number one, I love local bookstores. I've been going to the bookstore that Addy works at for, when did I move to Chicago? In 2010. So almost 15 years. It's my local bookstore. And even though I technically live closer to other ones now, I still go to that bookstore. And it's been a really fun journey there because I don't know if you remember, they used to not have a romance section.
I was just about to say that we only got a romance section probably a year and a half ago. And since then, I have really been trying to curate that to have it be a little bit more accessible and have it feature a little, like a few more indie authors and things like that. Books that I've read that I know that I can really recommend and push for. And so I've been doing all that, but of course you have to have some of the staples, Emily Henry and Allie Hazelwood and Julia Quinn with the Bridgerton series. So we've been, just going with that.
Yeah. I remember when that appeared.
Oh, you were so excited.
I was so excited for a lot of reasons, but it also felt really validating. And that's something that I think a lot of romance readers can feel is when places who have an independent bookstores, they're great. I love independent bookstores, but a lot of these booksellers still poo-poo romance as not important, not worthy literature, and therefore kind of push it down into like the dregs of whatever. And it's not, and we're going to talk about that as a book seller. But when it got pulled out as its own thing, that felt so validating as a romance reader, and also made my life so much easier.
Well,
I don't
yeah,
have
because
to
now you just
go
come
through
in and
the
go to
fiction.
one section.
You're not like hunting for the one brightly colored spine in a sea of,
Mhm.
intellectual depressing fiction.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. I definitely understand that. And it's something that even still now is very much almost a taboo subject in within the reading community,
Mm-hmm.
which we'll probably talk about more so, but all of my coworkers make fun of me for reading romance, not in like a mean sort of way, but in a
Yeah.
joking sort of way. They're like, "Well, all Addie reads is trash." And I'm like, "No, I read literature, thank you."
Yes.
And yes, I really love what I read, and also I'm reading more books than all of you.
Yeah.
So, I would say
No.
let's reprioritize because I'm actually enjoying what I'm reading.
Yeah, I feel better at the end of a book. Do you?
Mhm.
Do
Do
you?
you?
I don't know.
Really?
I don't know. And so let's talk about your journey as a romance reader.
Absolutely. So actually, I was really struggling to read for fun way back when I was in college. And then I had one day where I went to the library. I picked up 8 books. I read every single one of them within a week and brought them all back. And it kind of like locked me back in. But the way that I found romance was one of my friends had recommended to me a series that was written by K.F. Breen, which I've recommended to you a couple times.
Yeah.
But they write just really easy, not a whole lot of world building, but a lot of character building romances, fantasy romances primarily. And that really got me into romance because that was kind of a slight introduction to smut and was just fantastic. And then it just kind of took off from there. And now I've read God knows how many
Who knows?
and just
Do you
keep
want to
finding
share the
new
name of
stuff.
that series so I can put it in the show notes?
Yes, it is Born in Fire, the Demon Days Vampire Nights series by K.F. Breen that really got me in. And ever since then, I have listened, or not listened to, but I've read almost every single piece they've written. And I'm part of their like inner circle club. I know, very fun. Part of the K.F. Breen team. It's great. I really enjoy
Addie's
it.
so cool. Addie's so cool.
Thank you. I try. I'm not as cool as you, but I try.
Lies. So you started with this series. Where did you find it?
I actually found it through a friend that had recommended it to me because they got it from their mom. And it
Love
was,
it.
oh, yes. Oh, yes. And so now we've got like a little book club of their family and me. And we just share books that we love together. But yeah, they got it from their mom, who then read it and was like, "You need to read this immediately." And we had just started talking about romance books too. So it was just a nice little introduction. And then I went and I downloaded it on Kindle Unlimited on their account.
Mhm.
And then I got my own Kindle Unlimited subscription, even though I, as an indie bookseller, don't support the big old Amazon company a whole lot as much. I still use it to my gain because I read so much and that's accessible for me.
I think something that there sadly there is this thing about KU where yes, it's part of that big conglomerate where you should not buy physical books. Don't buy physical books from there. Don't do it. But KU and those kinds of services, and KU is just the biggest one. It just is. There's other ones, but
Mhm.
KU has done this in a way that no other service has really been able to. Gives indie authors an opportunity to be seen in a way that they don't, even in indie bookstores. And
100%.
so for indie authors, if you're someone who's searching for that kind of content, the best thing you can do is use a service like KU, because the thing that KU cares about is perpetuating KU. So they're going to keep sending you books and authors and recommendations through that service. And if you're really passionate about indie authors and you can beat the algorithm into submission, you can find the types of books that you're looking for, regardless of your subgenre or trope or whatever.
Absolutely. No, I 100% agree. And so it's really, really great for indie authors. I don't particularly use it myself in terms of author stuff, but that's just a difference.
That's a
Yeah,
different story.
it's an
I feel
entire
like for
different story.
romance, I only read romance through KU, and something that I'm sure we'll get into, or I'm just going to state right now, is I don't think that there is a more avid consumer of the written word than a human who reads romance. And like, tell me a mystery, tell me a fiction, tell me a nonfiction. Like, romance readers are ravenous, and
Yes.
the ability to read so much and have so much at your fingertips is, I think, something that really lends itself to romance in the way that it doesn't for other genres. The virality of certain books, I rarely hear about I mean, to be fair, I'm not caring about anything that isn't romance, but it seems to me that the flurry of excitement happens more often in the romance sphere than it does in other spheres. And it makes me feel like, well, y'all are just not as passionate about your books, or you're not consuming as many books, and you're not able to get your books into the hands of as many people through this platform, because those kinds of readers aren't reading a book a day, which I'm not, but there are. I, I know this wonderful woman through, as I'm going to joke with Seffi, like one of the Haleys, and she reads like 2 books a day, and she's just a fast reader. That's just, her skill set. And I'm jealous to no end. But like someone who's consuming 800 books in a year, you need access to 800 books. Okay. So we're going to transition into this book selling space, because there is books as a consumer, but there's also books as the provider. And one of the things about indie bookstores, and I do wonder, we can have a conversation offline, and I don't know the details of this, but I am very open about my love and reading of romance. And I've been reading romance since before there were e-readers. So if you wanted to read your book, you just had to read your book out in public in view of everyone. And so the weird shame spiral that I think a lot of women have about reading romance, are like, oh, are you reading smut? I'm like,
Yes.
yes, I am. Thank you. I've been doing it for over 20 years. So I don't have that. And I do wonder if services like big online retailers, things of that nature, are so popular because you don't have to walk up to someone and be like, hello, I am looking for this. I'm going to read Court of the Vampire Queen and Pucking Around. And what are my other MMF novellas? Like,
Oh, see, I
The
was
Dark
going
Kings
like
by Nikki Rome.
I was going Morning Glory Milking Farm or
Oh, yeah.
Ice Planet Barbarians. Like, I
Also
don't
up
have to
there.
walk up and say that this is what I want.
Yeah, you don't have to walk up and say that, whereas I don't have that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't have that weird
I don't either.
shame thing about it. But I'm curious, and that's something that maybe, like, Steffi, make a note for me to do research on my own about, because though, like, there is so much romance in the world, but in terms of like what's happening in bookstores around humans, it's not. It still seems to be like, oh, that thing that I keep secret on my e-reader at home that comes in a box that nobody sees, almost like sex toys or lingerie, which again, you should buy. You should buy openly. I mean, I wouldn't wear it out loud depending on your outfit, but like, that's you.
Especially not when
What
it's cold.
is so cold?
Yeah. No.
It's negatives in Chicago right now. Like, negatives.
Yeah. Like feels or is like -3 feels like -17 or something like that. It's cold.
Yep. It's real cold. It's
Mhm.
real fun to be here right now. I'm so glad I'm inside.
Oh yeah. But I mean, I do see some of that. I am also one of those people that I have no shame. And once I started reading smut and all of that and romance books, I didn't really have a whole lot of shame in terms of that. Granted, I am a very extroverted person, and so just a chance to connect with someone over something like is something that I very much enjoy. And that's one of the reasons that we became such wonderful friends and fell platonically in love. But it's definitely something that we see because I have a lot of people that come up and they're like, "Hey, so my friend really likes romance and we're getting them a gift." And I'm like, "Is your friend you? Or are they in the room with us?" You know, is something that we have to kind of navigate. And I'm like, well, what does your friend like to read? Do they like dark romance, sports romance, meet cutes, and everything? But with the rise of, I want to say Emily Henry is like one of the bigger
Hmm.
authors that has been able to kind of
Yeah.
bring this out into the light. But it's still very much something that not a whole lot of people are aware of because these, people that come across as men are coming in to buy this Emily Henry book for their partners and they're like, I have no idea what this is about. And I'm like, oh buddy, just you wait.
Just you're in for a wild ride.
And
Even if the reader stays at that Emily Henry level, your life has changed.
oh, absolutely. But one thing that I am not necessarily the happiest with is
Hmm.
these kids coming in and requesting Haunting Adeline, Butcher and Blackbird, Lights Out, these really dark and heavy and gory
Yeah.
romances. And they very much are young people. And I feel really, I don't know, conflicted in
Yeah.
terms of like selling that to them. Um, because I know the content that's in it. And it just, I do think we should have education. I don't think that that's the place to start.
No. And I also feel very conflicted about this for two reasons. Number one, I think that booksellers are doing a stupid job of like, and parents are doing a bad job of not curating what their kids have access to. If you have strong feelings about it, you shouldn't, like, don't let your kid go into the adult section to buy a book if you're going to have problems with your kids reading adult material. And I'm trying to remember. I've mentioned this, like my mom let me buy books when I was in middle school and high school that I am sure she knew were explicit. They did not hide behind covers back then, but it was my mom, and my mom let me. Kind of like if you want to see a rated R movie and you're 15, you got to have a parent with you.
Yeah.
I don't think there's something inherently wrong with children reading explicit material, but I do think that as parents, you need to be in better communication with what your kids are consuming. So if you have a problem with it, you can have those it's not up to the bookseller to parent your child.
Hmm.
It's up to you to talk to your kids about age appropriate material or say like, hey, I need to read this first and then I'm going to let you know what's X, Y, or Z. Because at 17 or 15, there are, you're still, you're not a functioning human brain.
No, and even
And
then, like,
yeah,
I'm not seeing the 15 and 17-year-olds. I'm seeing these like 10 to 13-year-olds. Like they're very much younger, and that's the problem that I have with it. But I
yeah,
can't sit here and go, actually, I'm not going to sell this to you
yeah.
because it's just, I mean, yes, I have the right to refuse service to anyone, but also they're books, and I'm trying to not you know, make you want to stop reading because you can't have the
Exactly.
material that you want. I'm just very much concerned with the material that you've chosen because
And there
maybe
are
it's more
even like
popular.
YA suspense. If you want the drama of Haunting
Mhm.
Adeline, there are like YA romantic suspense books that you
There
can
absolutely
buy
are.
and experience. And I can't imagine that as a seller, as someone who has these things and wants these things to be out into the universe. Like, I don't think that these books need to be taken off the shelves. I do believe that it is the job of a parent to know what your child is getting into. And it's the same with like clothes or outfits or things, like if I went to Victoria's Secret to buy a bra because I pretended I needed underwire at the age of 14, I still don't need underwire. There's no need for it in my
Agreed.
life at
Agreed.
all.
I was the
Like,
same.
aesthetically or like logistically, there's no structural support that is needed on this body.
No, that's only purpose is to essentially stab me at the end of it when it decides it doesn't want to work anyway.
Yeah. So, but like, if I went to the Victoria's Secret sale, I still had to show my parents what I bought, what clothes I was purchasing
Mm-hmm.
and the things that I was involved in. And I, that's a whole other conversation that should be had. And I, again, don't think it's your job to police what humans come in for, and legally there is no restriction. And the getting into, well, should books have ratings like movies? Fuck off.
Like
What is
I won't give you a rating. I will say these materials are like should be 18 plus, or have mature content, and just like making a note of it. But you don't have to
Yeah,
necessarily like mark these books by rating. You can
no.
just say, hey, this general section usually has themes that are more mature. Just
Yeah.
just keep it in mind.
Keep it in mind, if you have a 13-year-old and you're going into a bookstore, know where your kids are getting the books.
Yep.
Are they in the adult section or are they in the young adult section?
Yeah.
And the thing nowadays is there is a young adult section. There isn't just kids or adults. There is this whole space of things for you to read. It's not like middle grade to 50. Fuck.
Yeah. I told you I wasn't going to be the one.
God damn it. You saw it on my face. I'm like,
oh yeah. That was great.
I'm
No,
so
it's definitely
disappointed with
not
myself.
middle grade to Haunting Adeline or
Or
middle
middle
grade to
grade to
Highest Bidder
bride.
or
Like
to
even
Bride
middle grade to
or
bride. Like that is, there's a huge difference between that.
there's a
Or
huge
even,
difference between the Warrior Cat series and Bride by Allie Hazelwood.
but we're talking about explicit content. You've even got stuff like the Tamora Pierce, who writes these epic stories for middle grade. There's not explicit, but people have sex in those books. It's off page.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it is not adults, it is two teenagers, but they're happening and they've been happening for years. But those books are very, very much so in that young adult, middle grade world.
Yes.
The Tortall books. And so I agree. I think, God damn it, like I almost don't want to wish that I had never read Haunting Adeline. One day I'm going to get like in a really weird mood. It's going to happen and I'm going to read Hunting. Hasn't happened yet, but like I guarantee you it's going to be one of those like I'm at the bottom of a spiral and I'm just like, fuck it. Might as well.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to happen. What are you so as a consumer of romance, you're also on the other side of just book publishing in general. You mentioned earlier that in this book space that you're in, you aren't seeing necessarily a huge rush of romance readers. But what are you seeing on this back end about romance in the more traditional book space? Because as much as indie bookstores are indie bookstores, they're still heavily involved with traditional publishing.
Oh, absolutely. And so, in terms of not the readers themselves, but the publishers, there is a boom of romance that has been coming. And I was actually just talking about this with our Penguin Random House rep not 3 days ago, and also our rep for Macmillan, which are two of the big five. And so they have both been seeing quite a lot of romance just coming out, but also what some of these different publishing companies have been doing is they've actually been going, oh, hey, look at this indie author that has had their stuff do really, really well that they have done. Let's grab them, let's republish all of their books through our company, and let's get more people to read these. And that
Mm-hmm.
has happened so, so much lately. I mean, Olive Blake is a huge example of that, because everyone really loved Atlas 6, and then they went, okay, well, let's do One for My Enemy, let's do Masters of Death, let's put out everything that they've written,
Yes, I
traditionally
have.
published, and keep going with that. And I think the same is very true with a lot of indie authors. They've been picked up for traditional publishing, which I'm very, very happy about. I'm very glad that they are actually getting the recognition that they deserve, and that we
Mm-hmm.
are actually making romance its own genre and bringing it out into the world of traditional publishing. It's making me very, very happy to see, and also very happy to talk about with our reps, which I've had a lot of fun. I've had so much fun talking with our reps about books that are coming out and books that have already come out that I may or may not have read, or that
Yeah,
I read on Kindle Unlimited that are now being republished. And I'm like, hey, by the way, I
yeah.
really loved Seventh Circle, that entire like Hades series. Really loved that. I'm so glad you guys are now publishing it traditionally. Can I get some copies, please?
Where
So
is it? It's up there. Tay James. Oh, because I have a copy that you had never seen before. I have a cover that you had never seen and matches nothing else. I have no idea how I got the cover that I have, but
I
it
have no
matches
idea.
nothing that's out there. But it's it is happening a lot to indie authors. And I think that those online spaces where people could read and consume and share very easily made those things possible. And so you've got these like resurgence of, sometimes it's just their first book, sometimes it's a huge back catalog, and sometimes they pick up the back catalog and sometimes they don't pick up the back catalog. And you've
Mm-hmm.
got authors who are bridging the gap with both, who've got some indie and some trad and some of their back catalog and some of their not. And because this is becoming more popular, I'm also seeing authors do it differently each time. I think that there's a lot more respect being given to back catalogs in some ways, or past artwork. So for example, Nisha J. Tooley, the first two Artifacts of Ornos were published independently, and then she got picked up by Forever for the next two, and she was able to keep her cover artist, which I think is not always the case,
No,
as
absolutely
we
not.
saw with the Kane Brothers series with Megan Quinn. That cover completely changed from those really cute boys to completely illustrated. Or the New Camelot series by Sierra Simone, when it was picked up by Bloom, which is also going through revamps of its cover again, I think.
Oh,
I don't know. I've seen several different covers for them. I have the humans. I have the humans on my cover, so I like it. And uh you get these big movements. For example, like Lauren Roberts, her first book was Powerless, and it got a huge amount of traction in the indie space, and it got picked up by Trad, and that's her only book, versus someone like Bryn Weaver, who has a smaller back catalog, not a small, but a smaller back catalog, but Butcher and Blackbird was the one that in its indie space got really popular and got picked up by Trad, and she's now with Slow Burn. But
mm-hmm.
I don't see her back catalog being pulled out, which again, now with Katharina Mora, who got picked up by Bloom, and they're re-releasing her Windsor series as trad. I think Mine for the Moment was the first technically trad book in that series, in her in her world. It's not within the Windsor series, but they're re-releasing all of the Windsors in like beautiful sprayed edges, which I should
Oh,
probably
yeah.
pre-order from you.
Oh, great. Oh, also, speaking of pre-orders, there was one that you had already pre-ordered from the two that you sent in, I think, yesterday. So we got it all taken care of. I let everyone know. I was like, this is fine. If there are doubles, just get rid of one, you know?
I can't even tell you. This is why I do this through this store, because I have a tendency to do that. And I have a good friend who, no joke, once accidentally pre-ordered the same book 3 times from different retailers. And so I'm very fortunate that I don't have to consider this very deeply, but because I can spend money, the money that I have, and I choose to spend it at an independent bookstore, I'm not searching for the best deal on each book. And I'm able to just put it through one thing. I think the only time I don't usually pre-order through that store is when I'm looking up the paperback of a book I've already read. So for example, the breakup lists when I wanted it, or Sinner's Isle, books that came out in hardcover that first time. And I'm like, I'm just going to wait for the paperback. I'll put it in there because it's not essential that I get it day of. I don't need it in my hands. I've already read it. I want the trophy. And so I can wait and pre-order that months in advance from like bookshop.org, which doesn't get you the books on their release date. It sends them to you on the release date.
Yep.
Which is something that you should know if you have big feelings about stuff like that. So it's not good or bad. It just is a thing. But yeah, of course I did. Of course I
yes. Oh, yeah.
I'm trying to think which one it was.
You'd only sent in 2, and I can't remember. I think it was the one that comes out in February. Because it comes out on February 4th, and you had like 4 or 5 that were pre-ordered for that day, I think.
February 4th is
a big day for you.
It's a huge day for me. Hold on. I'm now looking. The love lyric, dream girl drama, deep end, tropical rebel gets the Duke. Oh, dream girl drama. Yes, that was it.
Yes, dream girl drama. That was the one.
That was it.
Yep, with the sprayed edges.
Yeah, which I'm mad about because I want it, but it now won't match the other 2. Like, the first 2 didn't come out with sprayed edges. Why do you want to ruin my life, friends?
That's one of the only reasons that I've got an Onyx Storm in the deluxe edition with the sprayed edges is because I have the fancy very first printing of Fourth Wing. I've got the holiday edition and Iron Flame all with the sprayed edges. And so now I just have to keep them together and have to get that deluxe edition. I will say I've already read the first page and I'm interested, but I'm very confused by the back, and you know how the back has the excerpt from the book, and I have no idea what's happening, and I'm nervous.
I go in blind. I have to finish this book first.
What is
Temple of Swoon? Temple of Swoon. Oh, I mean, she has the best covers. She has incredible covers as I look for the one over there. And they're all like Indiana Jones inspired. So I am loving this. I'm going to finish this first because I'm not dropping everything in my life for that book.
Agreed.
Agreed. Anyway, I should probably look at my list of questions for you. As someone who reads romance, like in your bookstore, you've already mentioned that coworkers who don't read romance, number one, they should pick one romance and read it because it's coming for you. I think as more and more people talk about their romance, there are going to be more humans, hopefully like me, who just walk in like, hi, I want the Omegaverse werewolf book. Thanks. And one of the things that I love about walking into the store is even if you're not there, whenever I give my name picking up a pre-order, everyone behind the desk goes, oh, you. Like if they haven't met me yet, they're like, oh, you. They know me. But I remember one of your coworkers one day I was there picking up some other books, and they said, "Oh, you might really like this new book that we've got in. I don't know if it's on your radar." And it's a werewolf book. And I went, "You had me at werewolf.
You had me at werewolf.
You had me at werewolf, PNR. Ah, this. I've read this author. I read a different When Grumpy Met Sunshine, loved it. It was during the SMP ban, so didn't talk about it, but saw this and like, look at that plus-sized heroine. And went, "Yeah, friend." And just like, I was like, "Hi, can you just put that on top of the pile?"
Mm-hmm.
And so people at the bookstore, besides Addy, know who I am. And when things come in or they see arcs, because sometimes you'll get arcs, other people at this bookstore are like, "Yeah, I can't give this to a regular human. Enjoy." Yeah.
No, and that absolutely happens is because when we go in and we wrap these advanced reader copies up, we have to go through and figure out, hey, what's going to be good for the public? What is a little bit too much? Like your memoir about your, grief and drug addiction and things may not be as suitable for someone. And so we're just going to put that off to the side. And then if you seem to be purchasing something that like is kind of in that wheelhouse, maybe we'll just give it away. Because other than that, like we can't really do a whole lot with these. We can't sell them.
Yeah.
So what we do is sometimes we will grab a bunch of the damage to donate and destroy and a bunch of the arcs that we can't really wrap up, and we'll just go and load up a bunch of little free libraries around Chicago and around the neighborhoods.
Love that. I love that. I love those. Super fun. And how do I want to phrase this? What am I trying to say? What are the biggest shifts that you're seeing come through? And I think we might just end up having a conversation about romantasy because we've mentioned it, but your romantasy section lives in the fantasy section of your bookstore. Are you noticing a shift in the kinds of humans who are both coming in for the romantasy or picking up romantasy because they go in for the Brandon Sanderson and see Phantasma next to it or whatever it may be?
It really depends because it kind of depends how much the romance plays a part in the science fiction fantasy book as to where we put it. Because there are some fantasy books in the romance section that I have read and went, hey, this is primarily smut. And like the romance is the main focus point and the main plot point. So maybe we should just put it over here instead. But really, I don't see a whole lot of people coming in for something like a Brandon Sanderson or a Joe Abercrombie that ends up leaving with a Sarah J. Maas. Like, I really don't see a whole lot of that. I've got a lot of people that are coming in for Sarah J. Maas, and I'll go, hey, if you like that, read this instead. Or not necessarily instead, but like read this too. Or I'm like, hey, be my friend on Goodreads, or be my friend on all of these different platforms. See what I'm reading. You can read off of that because there are a lot of things that you're not going to have a whole lot of access to, or you're also not going to ever be introduced to if it's not for someone like me that's going, hey, here's a really small indie author named K.F. Breen that no one knows about, that I'm just going to tell you about. Hey, here's this book that may be getting popular.
Series.
Just read the entire 11-book series, read all of the rest of them next. Yeah. Hey, there's this book that's coming out in May that's going to be really, really fantastic, and it's probably not going to get the attention it deserves. And so,
what book is it?
It's called Silver Elite by Danny Francis. And
thank you. We're going to put that in the show notes.
Oh yes, absolutely. I've got an arc of it. It is one of my favorite books I read last year. And I can't talk about it because I read it in October. It doesn't come out until May.
Let's talk about it.
Yeah, I was going to say, no, I don't have people to talk about it with, at least right now. But it is going to start, and this is just my call. I think this is going to start a trend of dystopian romance books making a comeback.
Yes. I don't know why. It's not like we feel that at all.
Yeah, I wonder why, but it's done very, very well. But apparently Danny Francis is a pseudonym for another author who we don't know their name, but it's a
Okay.
phenomenal, phenomenal book. And I'm
Okay.
very, very excited for other people to read it, but it's not going to get the attention that it deserves, I don't think. And the publishers actually don't think that too. They don't think it's going to do very well. And I'm like, well,
Is
I'm
it
going to push
trad?
it. It's trad. It is Penguin
Ooh,
Random House.
which imprint?
Oh, God, that's a great question. I don't remember. I have the
Well,
book here.
it depends on certain imprints get a little more push than other imprints.
Yep.
So if y'all are not aware of like the big five in trad, that is a absolute deep dive that you can do because you might think Penguin Random House and not understand that it splits and splits and splits
Into
into
hundreds of
hundreds
different
of
tiny
imprints.
companies.
So the Berkeley on your book is not Berkeley itself isn't a company. It is
It's
part of
Simon and
one of the big
Schuster.
five. It's Penguin Random
Penguin
House.
Random House, yeah.
Like, yeah. So you see Berkeley, but it's one of the dozens, if not a hundred imprints under Random House. So that I found a really good like visual breakdown of the publishing houses at one point because my brain was like, how many of these that I think might be indie are actually trad? And ooh, sexy. But it's a lot. Like it's so many of these because and you think like each trad house has one romance. No, they don't. They have multiple romance imprints all under their big umbrella.
Yep. And so people ask me, they're like, well, at least my coworkers or people that
Mm-hmm.
work in publishing are like, okay, so who's your favorite publisher? And I'm like, that's a great question because my favorite imprint is Bloom. My favorite
Yep.
publisher, therefore, is kind of Sourcebooks because I really like what Sourcebooks puts out
Yeah.
because I'm a very big mystery, true crime, and romance reader, which they all do very well, and that's like the majority. But um, it's just like, what is your favorite publisher is a very difficult question to
Yeah.
answer. Like
And I
Kelsey's
think
is
Sourcebooks is
Tor, which is a part of
which is,
another company.
yeah. Tor
Is
is part of something else. I think that's where Anita Blake came from. But like I think Sourcebooks is technically indie, isn't
Sourcebooks
it?
is it's not one of the big five, but they're making a
No,
name for themselves.
they are. But that's
They're
also
getting
like
up in there.
Entangled.
Yeah.
Entangled is an indie. Kensington, I think, is indie. Like there are publishing houses that because they're not part of the big five, fuck, I need to do a whole episode on this. I
On
just
publishers,
do.
you should get
I
Kelsey
should.
because she would love to talk about that.
I will do that. But it has to be about romance. So yeah.
I mean,
I
she can
mean, if
do
she's
it.
willing to, yeah.
Yeah, definitely talk to her. But yeah, this one, Silver Elite is coming from Del Rey,
Okay.
but it's very, very, very good.
I'm
It
trying
is
to
an
look like
enemies
what
to
do I have as Del
lovers
Rey?
dystopian fantasy. It's so good. It's so good.
I'm really excited about that. I gotta find it. I gotta find it somewhere.
Oh
Maybe
yeah.
I should pre-order it.
I mean, it's gonna have really nice silver sprayed edges too.
Can you actually pre-order it for me when you go into the store later?
Absolutely, I can. Absolutely, I can. I'll make a note.
Thank you. So there are things that are changing. What are the next changes that you hope to see in either publishing as a whole, the big five, indie bookstores? Like, if you had a magic wand, what would you change now?
Oh gosh.
I
I
know.
would really that's a difficult question to answer. I would really try to give indie authors as much credit as they're due. I think that's really important is to highlight the work that they have been doing and also acknowledge the work that they've done on their own, especially in terms of romance, to really just make sure, hey, you have done such incredible work on social media. you have gotten thousands upon thousands, if not millions of people to read your books when you independently published them. Hey, let us take care of that for you. Let's go ahead and republish it while still maintaining the original idea and feelings that you have had about this. And let's just make it bigger because more people need to see this. I think that would be a really great thing to do. I think also we need to keep an eye out on the people that are attempting to plagiarize fan fiction in their trad published novels, which has been happening. And just definitely, not at fan fiction. Do not steal the fan fiction. So, yeah, definitely things like that. And we actually, we're seeing a lot of things that are either that had been fan fiction in the past that are now being traditionally published, which is very, very big and is about to get very big too, with things
Huge.
like The Irresistible Urge to Fall for Your Enemy, the Dromini
Mm-hmm.
fan fiction now
Yes.
coming to life. And so we'll see a lot of that.
Senli Yu, is that the author's name?
Think
Who
so?
published Manacled, and it's being trad published under a different name now.
It is. It is
Yeah.
absolutely. But yeah, it's just things like that. Like we are getting nods at fan fiction, but there has also been some not great things happening in terms of plagiarism, which I wish would stop. But I'm very excited with the direction that it's going in. I just also think that acknowledgement of work that's already been done is really, really important.
I've noticed that work done as an indie author isn't taken as seriously when an author moves into trad, and that it's, oh, you weren't good enough or you couldn't hack it in indie. And there are a lot of reasons to go trad, and there are a lot of reasons to stay indie, and they are both really valid. They are both incredibly valid. And like with so many other things, the work done by these authors, by their teams to create a brand, to create their covers, to do their own marketing, to be in charge of all of this stuff that you're just not in trad because you have a really big team. We have to remember that as an independent author, you are the business and you are the CEO and the CFO and the marketing and the social media manager. And you might hire other things out to certain people, like a bookkeeper, or you might have a social media manager, but the person in the social media is you. It's not Berkeley, who has a social media manager who makes all their fun videos. It's not Sourcebooks, who has a team doing those things and following the trends and making sure their books are on there. It's all you. And just because you're not necessarily on certain lists or whatever they may be, number one, doesn't mean that you're not making an amazing income.
Very
And
true.
two, doesn't mean that you don't have talent. You could just be someone whose vision doesn't align with whatever trad has offered you. And something that I really hope trad does more of, and I think for a while there was just this, oh, well, you should be grateful that we're picking you up at all, and so give us all creative control over X, Y, and Z going forward. And people having to rewrite old series or give up their old covers, or a lot of control that they had and time and effort that they put into series when they moved into trad. And that trad recognizes the work that was done before and works to continue that author's vision, then force that author into whatever they think they want at their company, which is, not why you got them in the first place.
100%. And you kind of see that from both sides, whether you're going indie to trad or you just started indie and you're speaking to someone that did trad. Because it's, as an indie author, I get, well, you just couldn't cut it doing traditional publishing. And I'm like, that's not even it, because I didn't even try to go for traditional publishing because so few publishing companies are accepting submissions. And even then, they receive such a high volume of submissions that they have to really just try and narrow that down as much as they possibly can. And it's really hard to get into traditional publishing if you don't have connections or friends in there. and a way to get in the door. And so you kind of see that
Yeah.
from both sides. You see that from, indie authors that have gone trad. You see that just from indie authors that started indie. And
Yeah.
it's something that I think we should just write our books and put them out. Do I think some people maybe shouldn't have written their books? There are a few. There are a couple that I've read that I'm just like, maybe we should have thought about that a little bit more. Maybe we should have done another round of editing or looked at these plot
Yeah.
holes here. But we didn't. That's okay. You still did the thing. You still
You made a
put the
choice.
book out. You made a
Yes.
choice and you've done it. And that's something that, indie authors also have to like come to terms to. You did this. You wrote a book. You are an author. And it's something that I've really struggled with, but also is such a wonderful feeling.
Right.
Such a
Like
wonderful feeling.
you did it's like, and it was like, yeah, I ran a marathon, like physical activity. Like, yeah, I ran a marathon. You're like, wow, you ran a marathon? Yeah, I did it in 6 hours. Who fucking cares? You ran a marathon.
Yeah. Like
Whatever.
that's crazy.
You
That's
you
crazy.
did it.
So great.
All right. I am going to wrap us up slightly because I'm going to see you later this week because I have pre-orders to pick up.
You
Let's
do.
just be real.
You
I
do. They
do.
come out today.
I know. We're recording on a Tuesday. It's a new book Tuesday. But here at Jace Reads Romance, I like to ask my new guests the same 5 questions to close us out. So here we go. What is your favorite romance novel?
Oh my gosh. Oh
I know.
dear.
I
What a
know.
difficult question. Do I have to pick just one book or can it be a series?
Can be a series.
The Mindfuck series by S.T. Abbey.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Logan and Lana are everything.
They are. I haven't finished it yet. I need to. That's like on my 2025 goals.
Oh my god. Yeah, all the books are so short. I think I've read that
They're short.
entire series about 10 times in between the last 2 or 3 years.
I don't blame you. And it really is unlike anything I've read. And I don't know why. I just haven't gotten my act together and finished it. God damn it.
That's fair. It is a phenomenal series and it's written really well. Even though
Mm-hmm.
it's like really super short. I love it so much. It's one that I go back to time and time again and I just find comfort in the murder.
Yes. This is, you know what? I'm not even going to talk about it. But like, yes. That's a
Read
good
it. Yeah.
example. Question number 2, where/how do you prefer to read?
I prefer reading on my Kindle or on a tablet of some sort, only
Mm-hmm.
because I am constantly reading. And so I like the books to be as accessible as possible. So I read on the train, I read in the bathroom at work. Don't tell my boss. I read I'm like constantly reading. And also that gives me the ability to read in the dark and it has the
Mm-hmm.
night mode and things like that. So I'm not straining my eyes as much. So I prefer reading on a tablet, but I do love trophies. I love physical trophies. This is only just a few of the books that I own.
Number 3, here at Jason's Romance, we have this idea called a comfy sexy, and it's based on the belief that in your comfiest, safest space, you can still explore your sexuality by reading a romance novel. What does the phrase comfy sexy evoke for you?
A sense of exploration, I feel like, because there are so many things that I had not experienced in my own sexual history, um, potentially due to trauma that I've experienced, potentially due to just lack of access in terms of comfort, that I then got to explore through books as a starting point. I mean, a lot of, that's how I got into the world of BDSM and kink is through books. That's how I kind of went, would I like that happening to me? That's a great question. And so it's allowed me to be open and welcoming with myself to try new things that I maybe hadn't tried before. And it's just very nice to be able to explore a lot of different things that I never thought I would ever be interested in, but have read happening to this FMC. And I'm sitting here going, Huh. Now that's an interesting idea. So I would say exploratory is
Yeah.
what comfy sexy is.
Freedom to explore. I like that.
Yes, absolutely.
Follow-up question. When do you feel your sexiest?
That is a very good question. I don't know. I feel my sexiest. Really, I have taken so much time to find comfort in the body that I'm in, and it has taken a very long time to be able to do that. And so I feel like now I have found clothing that works best for me, and I've grown my hair out a lot, which I really, really like. And so I feel my sexiest right now, really. I'm like, I feel very happy. And I also have a partner that is very much supportive and just happy to look at me be me. And it makes me feel amazing.
I
So,
love
yeah,
that.
right? We're going
I have
into
like big hard
2025
eyes.
positive.
It. All right. I know that I brought you here to talk about not sex and sexuality, that we probably could have just talked about smut, sex, BDSM, and all of that fun stuff. But before you leave, what is one thing you want women to know about sex and sexuality? And you might call it your soapbox thing.
It is okay to not be entirely comfortable with the things that you're doing. And it's okay to push the limits of your own boundaries in an exploratory manner as long as you feel safe. Safety is the most important thing. Consent is the most important thing. And communication is the most important thing. And those three will work hand in hand to let you be and have the best time and be the best person that you can be the best partner that you can be, or just in solo exploration, have the most fun that you can. And so those are really important. Communication and consent and just an open mind. Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Addy, for joining me, for being my real life friend. We were real life friends first, not virtual friends,
Very
which I
true.
feel like doesn't happen in this day and age. So go out and take your body to other places with humans, with bodies, and make friends, or, you know, whatever it is that one does. And I loved having you. I'm going to bring you back. Like, sorry, it's going to happen.
Don't apologize. I would love to come back. Thank you so much for having me. It has been so much fun.
Yay. If people want to follow you on Not Real Life, you mentioned your Goodreads.
Yes.
Where can they, and maybe other places, where can they find you?
Yeah, you can find me on Goodreads and on Instagram under A.L. Roberts Author, A.L. Roberts Author. Because I do write books myself. I don't write romance, but I do write books. And so you can find me there on Goodreads and Instagram and rest in peace TikTok. And
It's
yeah,
back.
it is
Without
back.
the vibe.
Kind of.
Without the vibes. No
Yeah.
vibes.
But I am my own social media manager and I'm not very good at it. So yeah.
That is, I feel that. And all of that will be linked in the show notes. No worries, friends.
Perfect.
Addy, I loved having you in this virtual space. It's kind of weird not seeing you in person, but talking to you, like, so strange. But I'm going to see you later this week because, as we have established, I have books to pick up.
You have books to pick up, and I will get that pre-order placed for you later today.
No worries. Have an amazing day, y'all. I hope that you had as much fun, that you learned things, and that you go support your own indie bookstores. It's really important. And
support indie bookstores and indie authors.
Support indie bookstores and indie authors, which are not always in the same place. So do some due diligence. Thank you all. Bye.
Bye.
That's it for today, y'all. This has been a 3 Paws Productions podcast. Our producer is Sephi. Michael Achenbach is our patient editor. Our theme song is written and performed by Diana Weishauer. You can find show notes and so much more at jacereadsromance.com. That's JAYCE Reads Romance. Follow along on TikTok and Instagram at Jace Reads Romance. If you'd like to ask a question or share a story for the podcast, call and leave a message at 661-JACE-RR. That's 661-529-2377. Or send an email to jace@jacereadsromance.com. Finally, like and subscribe so you can get every episode when they drop. You can also leave us a review to help others find us. And remember, this is Jace holding space for you.